What's up, everybody? The bubble is back in Bitcoin. Thank you guys all for tuning in. And first of all, I want to tell you what I'm going to cover in today's video. I want to talk about a video that I created about this bubble and about the $2,000 price. Then I'm going to talk about the bubble itself. Then we'll do some chart review of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then I'm going to take a look at how high can this bubble go, and should you buy or sell, or what can we do with this situation that we're in right now in order to profit. I hope you will enjoy it, and if you do or if you don't, please leave me with some feedback either on Steam or directly in YouTube in one of these comments. And please also vote for me if you do like it, both on Steam as well as, of course, on YouTube. Thank you a lot. I want to talk a little bit about this video that I created about 3 months ago, and I've been very successful. For me, at least, I've had 100,000 views. That's phenomenal. I can't believe so many people have watched my video, and thank you all for also the good feedback I've received on it. And what I did in this video, I basically said that the price will go to $2,000 to $10,000 this year, and so we've reached the first goal. We haven't reached the $10,000 yet, so this is what we'll cover today. How high can we go? And I basically explained that the reason why we will get there is because of these bubbles. Because we are now in a bubble, this gives us the opportunity to really quickly get to really high prices. But what we also have to take into account, of course, is that when it's over, the bubble will really crash really high. And so we also need to be prepared for that. So thank you for watching this video. If you haven't watched it, please check it out, because this video today will be easier to understand if you've seen that video. Now, I've gotten a lot of flack because I called this thing a bubble, and I really do think it's a bubble, and it's also okay. It's not just negative because it's a bubble. We're supposed to profit from this thing. And so it's important to not be emotional about it, but just understand what's going on, why it's going on, and then act accordingly in a way that we as investors can make money. And so what does a bubble mean? It means prices are overvalued, the market is hot, people are overconfident, there's lots and lots of pumping going on, and it also means that the market will crash, not just correct, meaning go down 50, 80% or something like that. It does not mean that the underlying value is useless. So I just because I'm saying Bitcoin is in a bubble doesn't mean that I think Bitcoin is not worth anything. I really believe in Bitcoin, in the technology, but I do think that right now it's overvalued, and that's just the way market works. Let's take a look why this is. Well, bubbles is basically the way crypto just works, and the reason is there's not an underlying economy that basically bonds the value to something real. There's more speculation than sort of real economy going on, and there's good reasons for that. Right now, the only way to evaluate any sort of crypto assets is speculation. We don't really know what Bitcoin actually is at this point in time. It's very early in its life cycle. So when we're buying it and when we evaluate it, we really look very far in the future. So we're investing into the future. All the people that are buying Bitcoin are investing into the future. And so this is very uncertain. So this is why this is called speculation. Again, this is not a negative word. It just means we are not certain of the outcome. And as a result, there's lots and lots of swings in the evaluation for these assets. The tech is very new. So literally nobody has a freaking clue what blockchain, cryptocurrencies, or Bitcoin or Ethereum, what that really is. And so that's really important to understand. So everybody that is basically investing into is they're just kind of making educated guesses. And the only people that are really buying into this are optimists, because if you're a pessimist and you see a new technology, you just think it's junk because everything's bad. And if you're optimist and you see something, you can just imagine all the phenomenal things. But of course, because you're an optimist, you overvalue these things. So this is why these prices are just a little bit high right now. And so this is why it bubbles, because we can't really always know. And so then it is driven by these investments, people that are kind of driving the markets up and down. And so this is why the bubbles are happening. Oh, and by the way, if you one thing that's important in a bubble, I said before, is people are pumping it. And you can see here Fortune Finance writing an article today that says, if you bought $5 worth of Bitcoin 7 years ago, nobody knew about Bitcoin 7 years ago. 7 years ago, Bitcoin was like useless, and like nobody knew about it except a handful of people. And then you'd be a millionaire. Probably people that bought it back then don't have it anymore. Of course, there are a few, but this is the typical type of pump that I'm talking about when I say, the bubbles are being pumped. And also be careful, because people might be pumping it to profit on it. It's the easiest way to make money in these markets is to manipulate the markets, but supporting the existing trend. So the best way to make money right now would be to, have invested in the market earlier, and now that it's pumping it even more. So today I'm doing something different. I'm looking at the chart in a log view. So this is a logarithmic view, so going here from 200 all the way to today's prices. And the reason why I'm doing this, I want to take a look at kind of a midterm view here on Bitcoin. And what we see here, we had a very clear trend chart going on since kind of September of last year. And so for almost over a year now, we've been running in this very clear kind of trend channel upwards. What has happened recently is that Bitcoin has broken out of it. And by the way, this is also true for Ethereum. And so this is actually now the time here. We've gone upwards very consistently within this trend channel, but just recently Bitcoin broke out of it. And this means that Bitcoin now can go up parabolic. And to show you this, why this is really important in a bubble, I want to show you some other things here. So if we take a look at the total market capitalization, we see here that in these bubbles, the markets go up really, really fast in a parabolic chart. And this is happening right now here with the entire market. Now, a few weeks ago, I just said that the market hasn't done that yet. So right here, if we take a look at in the middle of April, this was not the case yet. And this is primarily because Bitcoin hadn't exploded yet. If we take a look at the altcoins, this is everything but Bitcoin. We can see that this explosion is much, much more developed and much steeper here. This just shows you that we are in a bubble. Basically, when the price goes up this straight and there's not a real true reason for it, and it, kind of can't be for the entire crypto market, then this shows us just that we're in a bubble. And likewise, we also saw the dominance of Bitcoin going down. So these altcoins, they have exploded and exploded even faster than Bitcoin. But going back to our log chart here, we can now see that because Bitcoin has broken out of this trend channel, what can actually happen is that Bitcoin can now explode straight up in this hyperbolic chart, basically up in a straight line. So because of this, we have to be careful and just saying, oh my God, all-time high bubble, we've reached our goal, should we sell? We can't just sell this easily, because what actually may happen now is that Bitcoin may explode up to higher targets. Before I go and look at what these targets could be, I want to also look at Ethereum. So Ethereum here has been just entirely crazy. So take a look at this chart. This is the normal chart, not a logarithmic chart, where, we've had this run from like $1 to this kind of $10 mark, or where we went from 15 to 8 in kind of this range, but around $10. Then we had the first run where it went up to like 50, and then we broke out to 100, and now we've broken out from 100 to kind of 200, right? Just absolutely insane. So this looks just totally abnormal. However, if we look at it again in a log chart, it doesn't look quite as crazy. Still looks pretty crazy though. What we see here as well is that since we broke out all the way to the 50 range, we've had like this trend channel forming here as well, and Ethereum also just broke out of it. So it is entirely possible that also Ethereum is now going to do a real parabolic bubble kind of run. So I really can't imagine, because Ethereum went from $10 to $200. That is 20 freaking X. But there is just so much energy going on that I think it's simply possible. And one thing I covered in my last video is that because of these exponential growth that happens in these bubbles, it's really important to be in the market at the end of it. So at the end of the bubble. Why is this? Because the market tends to go in these 20 to 50% ranges. In Ethereum, it's been like much more than that, right? So we went from 10 to 50, 50 to 100, and now from 100 to 200. So we had these runs that went like more than like doubled or three to, just really, really high. So what is really important is that you are in this market at the end. So if the bubble is just starting right now, then it's really important to not leave, because if Bitcoin goes to 10K and you sell now at 2K, that's like the worst thing you can do. So what I personally do is I stay within the trend as so long as it's basically proven to go on. Once we basically know that the trend is not correct anymore, then we can react to it. But at this point in time, I just don't know what else to do than to just hold, because I cannot predict the height of the market. Just looking at these charts, it's very simple to me. There is a possibility that now the markets really go straight up and really start to bubble at this point in time. Also, what we can see here for Ethereum, we basically now have a new support line at around 1600 from this former trend channel. This now becomes a support line. So, okay, so now I would like to talk about what could happen in this bubble. So how high can this bubble go? And so I've done a couple of things here. First of all, I've looked at all the bubbles that have existed in Bitcoin. I think we're in the 6th bubble right now. And what I basically did, I looked at when the bubble had to happen. I looked at the low, I looked at the high, and where it crashed to. So the first bubble started at 5 cents, went to 29 cents, crashed to 19 cents. Then the next cycle started from 19 cents to $1, crashed to 70 cents. Then we went from 70 cents to $30, crashed down to $2. Then we went from $2 to $200, crashed down to $70. Then we went from $70 all the way to $1,200, crashed down to $200. And now we went from $200 to, who knows, right now we are at $2,300 just about. So now what we can do, we can kind of look at the highs and the lows. And so here I've just created some charts, like how long did it take and what was the low to the high. So here the low to the high was 5.8x. The next low to high was 5x, so 500%, then 40x, then 100x, then 70x. Now currently we are about at 10x, right? So like we went from 200 to 2000, so that's 10x. That would be lower than the average, right? But here up front, it would be higher. But so this is not kind of unnormal what's happening. And this is what I'm saying. Bitcoin happens in bubbles. That's just the way it works. Now, one thing that we see in general is that the volatility is going down. So there's like a website where you can look at the volatility, and that just means how big is the variance between prices over time. And so here we see the volatility of Bitcoin going down. So because of that, I think the bubbles will get smaller and smaller relative over time. So what I think may be realistic is, you can see here there's kind of a trend downwards. So maybe if the volatility is only half as much as it used to be, maybe something like the high to high of half of what we had before might be realistic. So the previous high was 200, and then we went to 1,000, so that's like a 5x. So maybe now the high could be something like, I just cut this in half, right? And so then maybe something realistic right now is 3,200. I also have a couple of other things here where we can, for instance, look at the minimum high to high has been, if we take a look at different KPIs. So the minimum low to high, if we look at all the bubbles, that would give us a target of 1100. We're way past that, so that's not going to happen. The average low to high would be $6,000, right? So the average low to high would be $6,000. And then the max low to high would get us to $20,000. And if we take a look at the high to high, so the minimum would get us to 4,000, the average would get us to 12,000, and the maximum would get us to 30,000, right? So think about that. According to kind of this sort of analysis, you know, something like 30,000 for Bitcoin right now is possible. Now, I don't think that this is the 30,000 is very realistic because the volatility is going down. So I think something in the middle is a lot more normal. This is also why in my video I didn't say, you know, this year will go from 2K to 30K, but that's why I said from 2 to 10. That sounded already very crazy. But now that we're actually reached the 2000, I wanted to give you guys a little more detail, kind of how I come up with these numbers. Of course, we don't really know what's going on, and there's so much realness going on, i.e. real investments going on, enterprises joining the space, altcoins taking over spots of Bitcoin. So what we're doing here is kind of just looking at numbers, but to me this gives a good sort of guideline of what seems technically possible. So one more thing that I wanted to show you is that if we take a look at the peaks in the log chart going from the peaks and the bubbles, we see here we went up about 12, and then in the other bubble we went up about 6. And so then if this trend goes on with the volatility going on, just kind of looking at the log chart and how much space we need in the log chart, maybe if we go in half, it would now be 3. And so this would get us actually at a point where we kind of are today. This is a more conservative look at it. And this is also why, you know, my low goal in my video was about 2,000. I think the minimum that was kind of logical was 2,000. So this gives me kind of here the mark where we at right now. So according to this, we could crash right now. I do, however, believe that we do live in these bubbles, and these bubbles always have one thing in common, that we have this price shooting up in a straight line. And I don't really see this right now in the Bitcoin price yet. So if these bubbles continue, I think it is more likely that we are going to go on a little further. And so this is why I believe it is absolutely possible that the Bitcoin price will rise even further. And so this is why I would look at the chart and just monitor it. And as long as this bubble keeps going on, I would like to stay in this market. And so this is what I'm personally doing. So I hope this video was useful to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you really like it, I would appreciate a tip or an upvote on Steam or on YouTube. Thank you very much, and see you next time.